Okay. That's it. We're live with episode 101. We made it through our centennial, and now we're into the second century of Future Chat. Oh, man. This has been a conundrum this week. I think it's time to promote East Meets West once again, because Nick and I did an episode last week, or at the middle of this week, and we started off the show right away with me having disc issues, and the disc issues continue. They've not been solved.
Yeah.
But
Rob couldn't get his dick.
I'm sorry, what could not I get up?
Your disc. You could not spin up your disc.
Yeah, that's basically what happened.
I went for the joke and I misspoke anyway.
Well, I mean, it's a better joke if you misspoke.
Freudian slip.
Oh,
Guys,
man.
I'm so tired.
What happened?
Well, last night, actually yesterday at about 3 o'clock, I headed down south and did some gardening until about 10 o'clock. And that's all, moving compost and stuff like that. We'll be mulching later in the week, so it was pretty heavy labor.
Okay.
All things considered. And then I stayed up because the West Coast Eagles, my adopted team, was beating my friend Cherie's favorite team, the Gold Coast Suns.
Okay.
This sounds like a real league with real sports teams.
You really do.
Yeah.
You have no idea how real they sound.
The problem is, ESN2 decided that instead of broadcasting the game that was happening live in Australia at the Domain Stadium, instead of broadcasting that one, they'd rerun, I think it was Richmond and Essendon, which was just, it was a shellacking of Essendon, which is unsurprising because Essendon it was a drug or a doping scandal which removed like most of their players from the roster.
I still don't know what sport this is.
This is rugby, or Aussie rules rugby.
Yeah, it's Aussie rules football.
Yeah.
Or footy, as some will call it.
Because we don't have enough sports named football already.
And then I got home and I was like, well, maybe I can find a quasi-legal stream I could watch of the game that is still going on. And no, I could not.
No. I find it odd that TSN is airing any kind of AFL.
Well,
is that what you called it AFL last time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Australian Football League.
It's weird that they're airing that.
They air the CFL at some point, so.
I mean, it is a Canadian sports broadcasting and Canadian sport. So
well, no, but they broadcast the CFL in the States. You just have to pay for the right cable package.
Right. That's TSN.
Considering 90% of CFL rosters are American, that also kind of makes sense.
Yeah, everything minus the required Canadian players.
Literally.
Well, it's got the Canadian rules. Just you can't be upset if your awesome game attracts talent from elsewhere.
Well, no, I mean, in the Canadian Football League, one of the rules is you cannot be upset. You have to say sorry after every play. You tackle someone, you say sorry. You block someone, you say sorry.
I really want to see an edited version of a CFL game in which everyone like smashes together and you hear a bunch of sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Step on your toe, sorry.
That video must exist.
Yeah.
It seems like it should, but if it doesn't, Rob, get on that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I could see that would go viral if it hasn't.
That would go viral. Yeah, I have some big news, but it's not science or tech related, so I'm going to save it for the end of the show for the big reveal.
Oh man!
But
I just want to hear the news.
I know.
Is it something to do with your D?
It has nothing to do with the D.
Okay.
But before we get to the end of the show, let's start the show. And Mike, why don't you take us through some of this? This is all your follow up.
As per usual.
Yeah.
You guys never have follow up.
This stuff isn't even actually follow up.
It is follow up.
Wait.
All of it is follow up.
And now in follow up, Elon Musk has landed the fourth. Oh God, I thought it was only the third.
Yeah.
The fourth landing on the barge.
That's not even in follow up.
That's not in follow up because now I'm the only one who cares about it. Nobody else
What's
cares.
Elon Musk up to this week?
We will be talking about Elon Musk. Actually, I deleted that out of the follow-up. He was in follow-up before, but I took
Yeah.
him out.
And that's what Elon Musk is up to this week.
So I'll just go through this because these are all kind of follow-ups from our previous conversations,
Sure.
either recent or in the past, but
Yeah.
regardless. So as far as Allo is concerned, being the new messenger app in the internet landscape,
Pre-new.
pretty new.
Oh,
There's
at first I thought you were talking about like aloe, the plant, like
Oh.
that helps with burns.
No.
I'm tired.
Allo as in the Spanish way to say hello.
Yeah.
I feel like
Maybe
if you
French too.
said it in a British accent, that would help differentiate it for me.
Hello.
Hello. So this then? It's a messaging app, that's what it is.
There's some new data from, I guess, a data company called SimilarWeb that I guess they were using Android data from 187 countries to figure out what the most popular messaging app is.
Okay.
Again, this is Android data, so it's not going to include iMessage.
Okay.
But they found that WhatsApp is now the most popular messaging app, followed by Facebook Messenger at number 2.
Wow.
Which means that 80% of all messages sent around the world, at least by Android devices, are facilitated by Facebook.
Does that include text messages? Or is that
I'm assuming not. No.
Okay.
It'd be, but a lot of people use WhatsApp as SMS, like
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
right.
That's true.
There's Allo's got their work cut out for them for getting some of that market share, and I don't know how that's gonna work out, but I think it's just kind of confirmed what everyone already knew, that WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger were insanely popular, even within iOS. I think, Rob, maybe you can say more about it, but do people really use iMessage anymore?
Well, people who text SMS
Okay.
use iMessage if they're talking to people who have iPhones, because it just happens.
Right.
But I mean, it's iOS only, it's Apple products only. So for me at least, it can't capture everyone. It captures probably less than half the people I talk to. Really, the only person I message on a regular basis is Julia, because she has an iPhone. But everyone else that's kind of in my immediate circle of people don't have iPhones, or if they do, they don't use iMessage that much. They just don't text. Like, they'll send me Facebook messages. The most interesting thing to me here isn't so much that WhatsApp is really popular around the world, because we all know that it is, even if in North America it's not that hugely used. Facebook Messenger is not a surprise. The surprise to me is, like, they in this article they describe different pockets. Like in Asia, there are other, like, Line is pretty popular, and there's a couple other ones. Like there's social networks that are big in China that we don't even really have here. And, like, talking about how in Ukraine, 65% of devices have Viber installed, which is like another chat app that does voice calling. It might now do video calling. I don't know. I checked it out when it first started, and, like, it seemed like a pretty good interface, and it was free messages to people using the app. But I would never consider using it everywhere, and so I'm curious if maybe, like, WhatsApp doesn't actually work in Ukraine. Like, there are places like that, kind of conflicted regions, or regions with ongoing conflicts, where the government kind of takes authority sometimes and just shuts things down. Like, that happens a lot in China, where services just can't really be used, or they can be used, but not everyone can use them in the same way. You don't have an expectation it'll always work, and so you end up using something that just does work for you. It's bizarre, though. It makes sense that WhatsApp's first.
Yeah, I think it's more related to censorship.
Yeah.
And freedom of speech. I don't know if it's conflict related, but it's at least government policy related. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of apps in China and Asia that try to get around those regulations and limitations. So yeah, I guess that explains, like, the regional specific apps that might be popular. Yeah, that's an interesting kind of thing. And I guess for another piece of Google follow-up, we talked about last week with Daydream VR and how it's a new standard that's being kind of set up by Google to have Android devices be compatible with their VR system called Daydream. And we're talking about what type of phone would be required to run the VR system. and I guess just the motivation behind coming up with a standard, because on one hand it might be, oh well, Android phones currently aren't capable of kind of meeting Google standards, and the other is,
Right.
well, they just want to kind of get everyone on the same page versus just Samsung kind of being in
Yeah.
that boat. And turns out that it's the latter, but for some reason the current phones that would be capable of running it won't be allowed to.
In theory, like probably won't.
Well,
They're
no,
not
like
saying
yeah,
straight up they're not.
the head of VR said that current smartphones won't be capable of running Daydream.
Okay.
So and
Fine.
that being said, he's still saying that the Nexus 6P is an example of a specific device to work towards, though the 6P won't be a Daydream certified smartphone.
Right.
Who knows why?
Yeah.
Right? It just, obviously we all know why, but why? Like, it's...
Do we all know why?
Well,
Because I don't know why.
considering that I predicted this last week, I know why, because Android is hugely fragmented and they want to set a benchmark of minimum viability, and the only thing they can really do to make sure that everything is going to work well is to say, all right, every device that currently exists right now can't do it, but we're going to make sure that we set the standard now so that the next generation of devices will, if they want to be on this program, on the Daydream program, they will have to have certain specs. And it's possible, it's very possible that like high-end, like the Galaxy S7, can run this, but it won't necessarily run up to Google standards. And so they don't want to say current generation phones can do it until it's proven true on the finished product. So they're trying to set a high bar. I don't think it necessarily means it won't work at all. I think that it just means that they want to make sure that it's going to be a good outcome on older phones before saying, yes, try it on older phone. Like older meaning current, as opposed to when it comes out.
This is my theory, is that they're running out of things to include into a new device to encourage people to upgrade. So this is a reason for people to buy a new phone. That's maybe the cynical view,
That's
but
a very cynical view, but it's very possible.
Very possible. And I looked up, because when I read that, I'm like, there's no way that the 6P is like the gold standard of performance right now. So
Yeah.
I looked up, just basically first hit on Google for phone benchmarking, and so I'll include it in the notes. And if you look up the 6P benchmarks, they have a comparison chart, so you can add a couple other ones. So if you add the S7 and the Note 5 and the G5, those are all, the S7 and the G5 are all above the 6P, and the Note 5 is pretty much on par with the 6P.
Right.
Which basically means that anything, this year's models, all the flagship models from this year, are all at par with 6P or above. So there's really no reason to say, unless what you're saying is accurate, where they're not promising or just coming out and saying that this year's will be compatible.
Right.
It might be the kind of thing where it's unofficially condoned or okayed by Google for people to use the older phones. They're just not guaranteeing that it will work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a your mileage may vary situation.
Right.
But going forward, the ones that will work will be Android VR or Daydream VR certified.
Yeah. I think it's similar to the program, like the Nexus program itself. You can have, like, Google will build with manufacturers, they'll build a Nexus phone every year, or at least they have for the last few years. But it takes working with Google to actually get that certification. Whether or not any phone you can just take and root and install pure Android on, obviously you can, but they're not promising that it will work to their satisfaction and to their standards unless you work with them in the development process. And so the next Samsung phone, you can bet that they're going to work with Google to make sure that it gets that Daydream certification, especially because they're selling their own VR product.
I have a feeling that it might be a matter of going to the Play Store to download the Daydream app to run the VR, and the Play Store is going to say your phone is not compatible with this app.
It very well could.
And I feel like that is going to be the most straightforward way to prevent people from having a crappy experience, but it's also going to prevent people from who have a good enough phone to run it even if it's not certified.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to be the most straightforward way for Google to control what phones are allowed,
Right.
quote unquote, allowed to run it, which is unfortunate, I think.
Yeah. I'm really curious because they've come out, like Oculus, the head of Oculus came out and said that even the most powerful Apple computer doesn't have good enough graphics to support the Oculus. And so they're coming way out ahead here. They're saying that the rendering necessary, all the 3D stuff that's necessary to run good VR isn't something that can just be run on any computer. It needs a high-end computer. And so to run it on a phone, you're going to need a very high-end phone to do it, to get, like, you could play Tetris or whatever VR version of Tetris, where it's just like a fairly simple game or activity. But the things that they want to design for are going to be these realistic virtual environments that are 3D rendered and have 60 frames a second all the time. They're going to want high standards. And so I think that's really the only reason why they're even having a certification program. They want to make sure that everything is above that level of quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thrilling. Absolutely.
It will be. I really think it will.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I received my cardboard unit and
Yeah.
I've been playing around with it a little bit, and it is a fun, cool novelty to have like a pseudo VR headset.
Yeah.
Like it is very immersive, but the experience itself leaves a lot to be desired just with the
cardboard
just
thing.
yeah, like just
Yeah.
the way that the apps are right now, at least the ones that I've tried, they're not great because all it can do right now is there's like a little clicker button at the top that you can like interact with your VR environment.
Okay.
So there's kind of like a central cursor or little kind of bullseye in the middle that you can kind of point around and interact with things, but the experience itself isn't very like it's not the same as using an actual VR headset
Right.
at all. It's just the viewing experience is similar, which is it's just better than nothing. But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to trying like an actual VR headset at some point. Because
Right.
I'd imagine hopefully I would, but
Yeah.
I guess that's the whole point. And I guess the other aspect is that this Daydream VR thing, it's still not going. I guess maybe they'll put out a separate unit with it. I assume they would. That has sensors that can detect like arms and hands in front of you to kind of project onto the VR,
Maybe.
possibly.
Yeah.
But hopefully the experience is a lot better than what Cardboard offers right now.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they can improve on a little cardboard thing for your face.
Yeah.
It has lenses.
Oh, well,
Anything else to follow up, Mike?
There's Microsoft is giving up on its consumer phone business. They sold their Nokia feature phone division to a Asian company, I believe, and they're letting go of 1,350 Nokia staff out of
1850.
1850 total, 1,350 of them being Nokia staff in Finland.
Okay.
So, but that being said, they're still apparently researching and developing mobile phone stuff. So
Okay. Well, they still have Windows Phone, regardless of whether they have actual hardware products.
Well, that is what Windows Phone is, though.
No, but you can release Windows Phone on a phone that's not made by Nokia or Microsoft. Like they're giving up on maybe they're giving up on the idea of the Surface phone, but they're not giving up on the idea of Windows Phone as a platform.
Like similar to Android.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Just because Google may not make any phones, which they don't, doesn't mean that they're giving up on Android.
Hopefully, because I do like Windows 10 as a platform.
And I would hope that they don't give up on Windows 10 because like hundreds of millions of people depend on Windows.
I don't mean Windows 10 as a software, just being a phone platform.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Because I think the last couple of keynotes have given me a lot of confidence in their vision, and this is kind of disheartening to hear. But
well, yeah, the Continuum thing is very interesting, but nobody has Windows phones to be able to actually use or try it.
Right. But people want Windows phones.
Right. Like I would love the idea of everyone
wants a
having
Windows phone.
People, Nick.
What people?
People
Windows. People at
people
Microsoft.
People want a Windows phone that also has app support and that's why they were going to allow Android apps to run,
Yeah.
which now got kiboshed, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
I think.
I mean, I guess people want Windows phones in the same vein as people eat at Arby's. Like, yeah, it happens, just not a lot.
Yeah.
It
The
has going along that same analogy. Windows phones have certain use cases, the same way that eating at Arby's is very use case
Arby's
specific.
is delicious. Don't.
It's
In the
I'm
times-
not knocking Arby's. Like, I like the roast beef sandwiches. It's just it's always dead in there.
Yeah, that's true.
Like every time I walked in, like actually I think I ate at Arby's for the first time in like years a couple weeks back. But like it was dead when I walked in there.
I love the idea of everyone having not necessarily a Windows phone, but a phone with a continuum like service where you could, like, I'm seeing a public library or Starbucks or something. They could have a bunch of dumb terminals with a monitor and a keyboard and mouse, and you plug your phone into the dock, and then you can just surf the web on the computer that's on the like station, the terminal station that's there. But you don't actually need to log in or anything, and you don't have to. You can bring your own hardware. You have all your email, all your apps and stuff. But we're not there yet, and Windows Phone has not taken off as a platform.
No.
It's having the same problem as Ubuntu Unity, which will do exactly the same thing you're describing.
Yeah. You'd think Microsoft would be able to be better off, but so far they have not been.
And last bit of follow up here, Rob's dream device of
This
a
is
phone
not
that-
my dream device. I
phone
just
that-
want to be very clear.
the phone that wraps around his arm is
Nope.
closer to reality. There's a Samsung display that they demoed at some conference for digital displays in San Francisco, and they have a 1080p 5.7-inch display, 386 pixels per inch density, with a 0.3 millimeter thick display and a 10 millimeter rolling radius, which is actually pretty impressive.
This
Yeah.
is the single coolest thing you've reported in all of follow-up. And like, oh, and by the way, this awesome thing happened. I mean, it's not as exciting as WhatsApp being the top messaging app in the world, which we all knew already, but,
Yeah. You buried the lead, Mike.
I don't disagree that this is an exciting thing. I just thought it was more fluffy than the others.
What?
but-
What? No!
Nick, this is not like this in itself is an evolution of the best, but it's not the first rollable or foldable display.
No, it's not.
that has
I'm
been
not saying it
released.
is.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
but this
exactly.
is-
It's an iteration on an already cool, good thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like the last time we saw it, I can't remember if it was Samsung or not, but we talked about this before, where it was more of a TV-sized display that was being rolled, but
Yeah.
it was a lot less impressive. It was a lot wider of a radius,
Right.
and didn't seem to be as rolled as this one was.
Yeah.
This one's actually like very impressive.
I saw the footage. It's just, just being rolled between rollers. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
Mike,
And-
you know what my dream phone is, right? You know what I want. I don't want rollable.
Do you want the D drive?
No, jeez. No, I want the phone that stretches. I want it to become different sizes. I want to be able to like
Well,
pull my phone apart and have it become a tablet.
that literally doesn't make sense. What you want,
It does.
it doesn't.
It
Rob.
could. You need like flexible pixels.
You need Minority Report to become a reality.
Exactly.
And instead of being an abstract thing, be a physical, tangible object.
You need dynamically replicating, reproducing pixels.
No, you need an array of pixel type objects that are able to kind of move around but still know where they are and be able to communicate with each other. It's possible. It's just pretty far in the future.
Okay.
I see how it's possible, but I understand your skepticism.
What I'm really excited for with the 5.7-inch rollable display is I'm assuming this is based on graphene. Am I incorrect?
I don't know if it has
Being
graphene in
based-
it.
Okay. Details. I'm really excited for the implications with what this could mean for power generation.
Yeah, that's true.
Technology like this where you can just roll on a a really thin organic photovoltaic cell.
Mhm.
Like I'm looking at the big glass buildings outside in Calgary and just salivating at the possibilities, and also Soylent.
Yes.
And that's follow up.
There you go.
And that's what Elon Musk is up to this week.
So this week there was a big news story that broke on Thursday or Friday, and so I think we should come at this with, because I already saw, first of all, we saw the news break, we saw the round of all the other news organizations covering this news, and then I've already seen, like, within 24 hours I saw a think piece, and so we've posted the think piece in here, and it has to do with this cancer cell phone study whose results were first published this week, and that, like, they basically, it hasn't been peer reviewed yet, but they hit the ground running with results and published this study on mice and the effects of radiation similar to cell phone radiation. And so you guys first came across, like, you guys both said that you had seen this before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I came across it. I read some like backwater news site post something about this, and it was like, So any other headline I read about it, I just skipped over. I didn't even
What
bother
backwater
reading.
do you read?
It was something posted on Facebook that
Oh,
someone
okay.
linked to, and I was like, what?
'Cause
And of course, it was linked without sources or anything like that. So I'm like,
it was
And
reported in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, one of the two. One of the ones that has the paywall that you have to go around with incognito mode.
definitely the Times does that.
Yeah.
Although the other one might do it as
Yeah.
well. But yes, Vox. Vox made famous from our episode. We're taking on Vox.
Yes.
Nothing else.
Well, Vox was the one that published that is talking about the same thing that I want to talk about, which is the fact that we've talked a lot on this show about studies that we've brought forth that claim something interesting or different than we'd heard before, and they're wildly different than the other massive body of knowledge that we already have. But we've also seen and discussed the fact that, first of all, everything causes cancer, according to studies, and second of all, that study you read where everything caused cancer, yeah, it turns out that doesn't cause cancer. And so we've seen a lot of pretty thorough research and long-term studies done now on the effects of cell phone type radiation at the levels that cell phones produce it, and at those frequencies that are non-ionizing. And so then the New York Times, or whatever it is, comes out with a publication that just says this. Basically, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but basically, here's our cell phone's cancer link. And saying that when you're talking about a study that was done on rats, and saying that the study that they did found that some of the rats had a slightly increased incidence of cancer, but it was only the males, and it was a specific type of brain cancer. They haven't necessarily controlled for all the variables, and this hasn't been peer reviewed. This was published, like, the results were published. It hasn't gone through final evaluation yet. But because cancer generates clicks, they're gonna kind of try to get out ahead of it. But if it gets peer reviewed and it just turns around and they say, oh, okay, there's flaws in the experiment or it needs more research, then they will have already gotten all their press and it doesn't really matter anymore. This is the reason why
peer review is irresponsible.
this is why peer review exists, first of all, and this is also why you can't just look at one study in isolation. You have to look at the study in the context of the existing body of research. And so, like, when you develop a new drug, you go through animal testing first usually, and it can't necessarily be trusted because humans react in different ways to animals, even rats a lot of the time, even though they're kind of genealogically close to us. But in this case, they did a study on rats where they looked at probably the most kind of controlled study you could have, where they had the rats in a small cage and they were exposing them to radiation for controlled amounts of time. Whereas in human population, you're just looking at people to self-report cell phone use. But humans, in this case, the human study where they looked over 20 or 30 years at the incidence of brain cancer specifically, but all kinds of cancer in general, and comparing that to like high cell phone use or medium or low cell phone use, they found that there was no link over time. And you'd expect that as cell phones get into the 20 to 30 year range, that's when tobacco, for instance, when tobacco first got huge, but with big companies manufacturing cigarettes, 20 or 30 years later, you saw this massive spike in lung cancer. We're not seeing that same spike in brain cancer or any other specific type of cancer since cell phones kind of hit that point where they were in the population. I don't know. Did you guys have any thoughts other than, like, Mike? It sounds like you just saw this backwater Facebook post and then ignored everything else.
Yes. Well, because this has come up before. Like we were saying before the show, back when BlackBerries were becoming bigger and just people started carrying cell phones around, there's a big push for people to wear their cell phones like on their belts and to get like headsets so that their phone wasn't directly like next to their head, which is ridiculous. And so I just assumed this was like the same type story, just kind of getting recycled for some odd reason.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're talking, like I was trying to think of like what, like my argument against this type of thing is generally like, do you realize how many electromagnetic waves are flying through your body right now, even while not using a cell phone? So like the cell phone should be, if you are concerned about that, that's the least of your concerns, because just there's a lot. You'd be terrified if you could see them. So that's kind of my first reaction to this, is just have a bit of reality check, I think.
I just wanted to come in on like a tangential note before I reload, because once again the Google Talk Video Renderer plugin has crashed. I don't know why Firefox is having so many issues.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Actually, the issues are with Flash, because for whatever reason it hasn't fully embraced HTML5 on Ubuntu, and
I don't think it's embraced HTML5 anywhere. Flash?
I mean Mozilla specifically.
Right.
And I have difficulty believing that. Actually, no, maybe it's true. Does the Google Talk Video Renderer work on HTML5 or?
Well, it works on modern web standards, not Flash.
Maybe that's a problem. Maybe I'll just like take a break for a while and try and bring this up in Chrome somehow and not be able to mute myself. I still love Ubuntu though. Anyway, tangential note. I have it on good authority that for a while one of the senior people in the Canadian military had one of those BlackBerry belts.
Okay.
And on their day off, they would walk around wearing only undergarments at home with the BlackBerry on the belt, because they absolutely had to be reachable at all times.
Yeah.
For reasons of national security.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I think that's funny.
You want a BlackBerry belt and nothing else?
Well, no, you got to have something to clip it to. Oh, are we saying like a full-on belt just for the BlackBerry?
No, the clip-on.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was visualizing.
No, the clip-on thing.
Yeah, no, the clip-on thing is what I was thinking of.
Fair enough.
I like that a lot. But yeah, it's also the guy in Vox, I can't remember his name, he makes an excellent point saying that you would assume that as cell phone rates have increased, or the usage thereof has increased, you would expect to see a corresponding rise in cancer rates, and it just hasn't happened.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that it's impossible, because we have science, because common sense doesn't really work.
Right.
And I don't know. And the other thing is, the tests that actually generated tumors within the rats, one, apparently it's still within the range of false positives.
Yeah.
And that's why we use peer review.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, damn it. Oh, there was another thing. Can't for the life of me remember it right now. Oh, yeah, they were irradiating the mice for like 9 hours a day,
Yep.
or potentially in excess.
Yeah.
And so it's like every single thing that says, "Oh yeah, this can cause cancer." It's like, well, what are the conditions under which it causes cancer?
Yeah.
Because I think there's an artificial sweetener that causes cancer if, like, the equivalent would be us eating several kilograms of that artificial sweetener a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you eat several kilograms of one single thing. I expect for something to go wrong
Yeah.
after a while.
Yeah.
Like,
The
I mean, even a vitamin toxicity or something like
yeah,
that, depending on what
exactly.
you're reading.
There's a weird kind of disconnect in journalism, in reporting today, and I've experienced this myself somewhat as I've been writing. I've actually been writing for MobileServe for a year now. I find it very odd. The headline of Wall Street Journal article, which I'll post a link here for people who wanna see. Um, do we do we want to take a break? Is that Nick's gone? You need to step out.
Yeah. Let's take a break for a sec.
Okay.
I'll be like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, live viewer. You're gonna probably want to skip ahead if you're watching this live on YouTube. I know you're not watching live, but like if you're watching the stream, because it's gonna be a couple minutes. That's fine. I'll come back to my point when we're done. We're just wasting time now. If people were here, they'd be able to hear the surprise maybe. But they're not here. They're not here at all. I wonder where Nick went. I'm just wasting disk space at this point. I'm wasting server space. I'm wasting server time. I'm wasting time. I'm killing time. Let's listen to Hamilton. I hope everyone's okay with that who's listening live. This is going to get flagged. Fine, I won't listen to Hamilton. Hey, Nick. Mike had to go, so we're taking a break. There's no point in me just sitting here talking.
Is that where we are?
Did you get everything fixed up?
Did you hear me start to say, "Is that where we are"?
I heard you say the whole thing, I think. Unless you said it twice.
I did say it twice. Okay, I'm just gonna run on a test here.
Okay.
Testing.
I hear you now.
Okay. It appears that Mute is actually working with Chrome now, so maybe that will be my preferred
I would
Hangouts
imagine it'd be
medium.
great to not have to use Firefox at all.
Yeah. Except Chrome will occasionally just crash and ditch all my tabs, which, when you job hunt as I do, and you open a bunch of tabs and then work through them applying, is kind of frustrating.
You could use... I mean, I'm sure there are a multitude of other things you could do.
Yes.
It doesn't, like,
Sure there are too.
does it recover the tabs?
You can sometimes. If it
Okay.
updates, it'll just ditch your history, though, for whatever reason. Because I have the setting turned on where you just pick up where you left off.
Yeah. Huh.
So Mike just peaced out.
Well, he left some notes in the chat. He said something came up. Got to head up for a sec. And then he said he'll be about... He said 5 minutes, so I don't know.
Okay. He does have a child. That's okay.
Yeah.
Heads up, at about 39 minutes and 20 seconds of my recording, I sniff. So, if you don't take that out, my mic wasn't muted.
39:20
Something like that.
of your recording.
Yes. So you guys will just be talking. There'll be a sniff. Are we editing this part out?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you editing it out of the YouTube part, or does such a thing happen?
No, this is all going to be in the YouTube part.
Nice.
And
Hi
I
YouTube.
introduced.
How you
Sorry?
doing? I said hi YouTube. How you doing? Like,
I
share, and subscribe. Future chat.
I told them at the very beginning that um they could fast forward for a few minutes if they're watching.
Okay. I'm just gonna get my sniff on. I'm gonna sit back while Mike's not here.
Actually, I should do the same.
I try not to do this anymore, but it's so comfy, so much more comfortable to have everything just. It's nice to sit back, relax, and unwind, you know?
You're telling me. I invented that. Now we can both just just recline. Oh yeah.
Just two normal guys hanging out, having fun, right, guy number two?
You got it, guy number one. I'm very excited to see that movie, by the way.
I know, right? Like I've seen the what's it? The couple of videos they put out for it.
Yeah.
I was actually really craving a listen to their older albums.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, this is obviously a concept thing, so any music they put out is going to be by. It's not going to be by Lonely Island. It's going to be by Connor, but
Connor for real.
Connor for
I think.
real. Yeah.
It's interesting though. It's exciting.
It's good to see that studios are willing to give them money still.
Yep. That said, I wasn't as big a fan of the Whack album. Like I listened to it a couple times and I was like, I could leave this.
Okay. That's fair, I guess.
Instead of like the first two albums where I was like, I am definitely taking all this.
Yeah.
Except maybe Ross Trent in Space Olympics.
I like Space Olympics. I wasn't as big a fan of Ross Trent.
Yeah. Yeah. Got my liter of water going again.
A stein of
Hashtag
water.
hydrate. It's really handy.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Also at a bar called Worst. I don't know why I'm looking at Mike now, but that's where my camera's gone.
Oh.
Anyway, at a bar called Worst, they have stein holding competitions, and I feel like this is good general training.
Do you just have to hold it up, full of beer or something?
Well, they fill it with water because you're likely to spill it.
Oh, okay.
But you hold it forward at arm's length.
For as long as you can.
Yeah. It's harder than it sounds.
Oh no, I've tried holding like even 5 pounds out. It's not easy. It's easy for the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But apparently it's a drinking game in Germany.
Right. I think I'm trying to remember back to Beer Fest, the movie. If that was one of the events.
I have no idea.
I think it might have
I don't know that I saw Beer Fest.
It was a pretty good kind of college comedy. I didn't see
I'm
too many
guessing
of those.
there were scantily clad women running around.
There were some, yeah.
Because, yeah.
If I remember correctly, though, it was at least slightly feminist in some ways, and that I think there were women competing too. But maybe I'm just totally imagining that.
Whatever works.
Do you we can continue talking about cell phones.
Oh, thank God.
The cancer
Wouldn't
thing,
want
I
to
mean,
miss that.
not cell phones specifically, the cancer from cell phones.
Oh, cell phone cancer? Ugh.
Just because time passes. Oh, never mind.
Mike has triumphantly returned.
The return of the mic. He's back. The boy is back on mic.
Hello.
There he is. He's got his ears in. He can hear us now.
There we go.
We were just about to be like, should we start? But it just picked back up, and then you appeared.
Yeah.
So everything okay? You
Yeah. No, we're good.
back where we were talking about cell phones and cancer, I just wanted to point out the like as I was saying before we kind of got off track. This Wall Street Journal article says that this is a multi-year peer-reviewed study by the National Toxicology Program that found low incidences of these two types of tumors. And then if you click through to that, like the word study by the National Toxicology Program is a link. If you click on it, it opens up to this bioarchive thing where you can read the thing, and I think you can actually just download the PDF for free. The very first part, underneath the names of the writer, says this article is a preprint and has not been peer-reviewed. There's no like this is the Wall Street Journal. You expect that it's like what do you mean? Why did you write peer reviewed if right at the top of this thing it says that it's not? Did they get a press release that said it was? It just seems very bizarre to me to miss something or like misrepresent something that obvious and right up at the top.
Yeah. Well, this is classic science reporting in today's news cycle because we've even had incidents where there's people that release like literally fake or incorrect studies to the news to sell it to them and like, oh yeah, we'll pick it up, and they'll run it without doing any sort of back checking of facts.
Right.
If it's peer reviewed, if it makes
It's
sense like that.
I feel like some news agencies don't even have the facilities to replicate half the experiments they talk about,
We're not asking for the news places to replicate the experiments.
That'd be great though.
That would be.
If like in order to report on this you have to reproduce it.
Yeah.
That would be amazing actually. That would solve a lot of problems with science and news reporting.
Right. Yeah, so in the actual paper itself, it says that there is some data that was peer-reviewed, some of the data from the study, but it's an incomplete study, and the reason that they're releasing the findings now is that this could have widespread public health implications, which is obvious and true, but I mean, they decided a while back to classify non-ionizing radiation is a possible carcinogen, but that doesn't really have any meaning in that it basically means we don't know.
Guys?
Yeah.
I have something very exciting to report.
What's that?
This cup repels bear attacks. As long as I've had this cup with me, I have never once been attacked by a bear, and I think we need to get this story out there because this could have serious bear attack implications, which is a big deal over in the mountainous country in Alberta.
Sure.
Would you say it's game changing? Is it a game changing development?
Yes, I would, Mike. I would say that.
Yeah, I don't know how much more we need to say on this. I want to re-clarify that this is not necessarily something to be alarmed about. It's something to be aware of. Oh, it looks like Nick has more breaking news.
Guys, this box of tissues, which is actually not Kleenex, I have never once been trampled by an antelope with this box of tissues with me. And I mean, it's pending peer review, but I got to get the news out there because this could have serious antelope-related consequences.
Absolutely, you're right.
We need to get this box of tissues to the savannah now.
Yeah, it's a little irresponsible, but at the same time, I kind of get it outside the context of everyone's already scared or worried about the health effects of radiation.
Now, I'll give you an example of something I think is worth getting out there. Like, immediately out there.
Sure.
There was a trial on depression. I think it was depression specifically. And they were trying several different methods of treatment. And one of the methods of treatment was just 30 minutes of cardio a day and seeing what effects that had on depression. And the rate of or the effects of depression, or the rates, or whatever it was,
Yeah.
it so sharply declined with just 30 minutes of cardio a day in the trials they were running on humans, actual humans with depression, clinical depression. Could I be any more verbose? Probably. But they actually suspended the experiment and said, no, we owe a duty to the people we're currently experimenting upon to get them doing the 30 minutes of cardio a day, because actual human lives and, like depression isn't fun.
Right. Yeah, there's
And it would be irresponsible of them not to release the findings when it looked as conclusive as it did.
Yeah.
That's when I think you can bypass peer review and say, no, just we need to get you exercising for half an hour a day because your life will be so much better.
Right. But, you have to consider the potential risks of a false positive, right? There's no downside to the average person having 30 minutes of activity. That's pretty much conclusively good in every other way. And the fact
Is it
that
though,
also,
Rob? Is it?
Yes, that's what this study showed. Yeah, it's true. That's a good example of a reason to really study results early. And we've already seen a lot of human-related trials with non-ionizing radiation and cancer risk, and they have shown that if there's an effect, it's infinitesimally small and can't necessarily be attributed directly to the radiation itself. And so the fact that a study on rats found a similar kind of possible effect, maybe
with only one frequency, if you constantly irradiate them for 9 hours a day.
Yes, exactly.
There were two frequencies they tested, and it only affected the males, never the females, and it only affected the males with that one frequency.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. And yeah, the power levels here are also important, like not just the exposure level, but the exposure time, but the power levels. If they're sitting right next to like a cell phone tower level of power, that's different than next to a phone. And they've even said, even now, the like the SAR, the amount of radiation you actually get from a phone, they really recommend keeping like 1/8 of an inch between your ear, like your actual skin itself when you're on the phone call, because that's when the radiation is the highest. If you look in your manual for phones, they will all say keep 1/8 of an inch between your ear and the phone.
Oh.
And it's specifically because of the potential link between cancer and cell phones. They're saying even at 1/8 of an inch, the radiation that you actually get into, like penetrating into your head, drops off that quickly. That it's much lower power even just at that short distance. And it just points to the fact that the radiation level is important, the power of the radiation source is important. Everything in here is really important, and so the fact that they've done real studies with people out in the environment and show no risk means that a controlled trial here where they're not actually even using humans, you can't trust that nearly as much as you can with a big 30-year trial. So yeah, I feel like we've adequately covered that for now. We'll probably hear more about this study and
covered that thing that doesn't actually deserve coverage.
Yeah, well, it does deserve coverage. It's important to talk about, but it doesn't deserve coverage in a fear-mongering kind of way.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what my plate over there repels.
I mean, right now it seems to have repelled whatever was on it before. Breakfast?
It's true. Actually, I think it was bacon. Guys, I have bacon in the apartment again.
Oh, man. So I guess we have time here for we'll do one more story here, and this is one that Mike you brought up, which I saw but I didn't actually look that far into. So why don't you tell us what the biggest news in space this week is, not SpaceX.
Yeah, I actually saw this morning. It was some news coming out of the Rosetta exploration
Mm,
detection program, and they've actually directly detected key organic compounds from a comet,
right.
versus previously we've indirectly detected compounds. So after they come to Earth, then you do analysis on them and such, or you do it from spectrometry,
Yeah.
spectrometry, um, just of
Uh,
around a comet and that kind of thing to kind
Mhm.
of see what it has and whatever.
is
So
it?
this one, was that?
Sorry. You know what? Finish your statement, then I'll talk to Rob about it.
Okay.
Mm,
So the Rosetta lander has detected with like in the gases around the comet, uh, the what was it? Glycine
glycine,
something,
yeah.
which is a key compound to build proteins.
Yep.
So
And keep the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park at bay, I think. Could be
Yeah.
wrong.
yeah, so they've theorized or thought for a while that the key building blocks of life have come from the comets that have landed on Earth,
Yeah.
like in its early stages, obviously. So this kind of supports that hypothesis that that's kind of where all these things came from. Same with rare earth metals, all that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
they've kind of figured that they've all come from space stuff that have impacted Earth in its early days. So it's cool that this just confirms what we've already kind of suspected, but we've actually been able to directly detect it. Versus they referenced another comet called Wild 2, where they
Mhm.
detected glycine before, but there were contamination issues that they had to kind of
Mm.
sort out. So they did end up confirming that they were comet origins, the glycine, because of the carbon-13 isotope.
Well, and the fact that they're actually still out there, they haven't brought it. But like they said, it's contamination because they actually brought it back, right? There's
Brought it back.
contamination from there was contamination, direct contamination of the samples. Whereas this is out happening in space. They're
Yeah,
doing
no,
the
exactly. Yeah,
analysis on the comet.
right, and that's why that issue
Yeah,
doesn't come into play here because that lander's out there, so that there's no contamination to
yeah,
be had. So it's it's just kind of another pure science type discovery, I guess. Like this doesn't really have any immediate bearing on any sort of research right now, as far as like glycine's already, I guess, well known as a key building block of life,
yep,
but it's just cool to know that just what we've already kind of suspected is kind of holds as water.
yep. There was also water on the comet, to be clear. Yeah.
So sorry,
Go
I was
ahead,
going to
Nick.
jump in and ask
Yeah.
Rob. So if they had it on Earth, I think they might do spectrometry, and then if it's in the atmosphere, they'd be doing spectroscopy.
Yeah, I agree.
Does
I
that sound about
think.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, gotcha.
Spectrometry is usually like directly measuring. It's usually mass spectrometry,
Yeah.
and then spectroscopy is using light
Yeah,
to
using your
indirectly
incident
measure.
light. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
don't
Um,
use lasers and stuff, yo.
yeah. The interesting thing here, and the reason that every time something like this happens from space is every time it seems like at least every time we go and look for something out in space, we find it. And well, not every single time, literally, like we don't find aliens, for instance, but if we go searching for water on a planet in our solar system, we find it eventually. If we go to a comet, this is the first time we've landed a lander on a comet to do research like this, and we found some building blocks of life. We found obviously we're expecting water, and we found water on the comet because that's a main kind of building. It's like ice, and there's all kinds of very cold, even like stuff like liquid nitrogen, because space is just really cold. Another thing
Space.
they found here is phosphorus, which is another kind of component of DNA and like life itself. It just leads to the fact that if this one comet we found has glycine on it, it makes it much more likely that this isn't a rare thing, that every comet has glycine on it, or lots of them have glycine. And we went through, like Mike, you mentioned, the late heavy bombardment is the official name for the fact that we got hit by a bunch of asteroids and comets and stuff from the early universe. It's a good indicator of that being the reason why there's life, because the entire planet was already formed. It was a ball. It had started to cool, and then we got hit by a bunch of stuff. So all this organic material is just around on the surface itself. It's not spread evenly throughout the Earth. It's concentrated on top, and that those conditions, along with all the heavier radiation, because Earth had less of an atmosphere, and this kind of critical mass of organic compounds, means that basically all you need is a spark and life forms. Like that was one of the experiments they did in the last 30 or 40 years, where they mixed up all the essential amino acids for life and a couple of other ingredients, phosphorus being one of them, and then basically like used a spark to simulate lightning. And
I was thinking about that. They used like ammonia and water and like maybe methane or something like that, just common gases that you could easily expect to be around.
Yeah.
And then they arced it and found amino acids had formed, which means like, you know, if amino acids just kind of naturally occur, it would make sense that life would choose to build around that kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all very cool, and I had forgotten a little bit that this comet had a bunch of research going on it, and so it's great to see that they're starting to get results in, and specifically like this is a huge result, especially this comet, and they're finding a lot of kind of these solar system bodies that spend some of their time out in deep space they're not tightly packed. Like this is a very light. They call it almost just like it's dust or gravel being held together loosely.
Oh yeah.
So it's not a harsh environment. It's an area where stuff could survive, and it's all very exciting. Anything else to say on this wonderful comet?
I think that's kind of all we had to say about it. Hopefully we'll start hearing more news. I guess I was just reading in this photo caption that it's planned to end its mission this September by crash landing onto the surface of Rosetta. So
right.
I guess
as we always hear with these missions, they have a goal, and they set a very conservative goal of what they can do in case something goes wrong or there's a power failure or whatever. Or in the case of Rosetta itself, how it was offline for a while because it landed in a spot where they couldn't get to the sun to keep it solar powered. But it's likely that once they crash the lander into the comet, they'll be able to collect data from that, and that if anything is still alive, like has power, they'll be able to continue doing research. It's just this is the expected end of the mission. We don't necessarily expect to get any new data after this, but if we are still able to, they're going to keep collecting it. They spent millions of dollars to get, or even up to possibly $1 billion to get these kinds of missions going, and so they're going to try to milk it for all it's worth, but this is the end of the expected mission.
Right.
It's the same idea with New Horizons. Like now that it's gone past Pluto, the whole time they were already like, there's 3 or 4 kind of bodies out there that would be interesting to also look at, but they got the funding to look at Pluto.
Right.
But now they're in Congress, like they're in budget discussions with Congress to try to get a budget extension for the mission. But in the meantime, there's a vast distance of space. The New Horizons probe is just kind of flying out in that general direction anyway. So it's going to make it easier to convince them to continue doing research, given that the equipment's already out there and running fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, you guys good to wrap up for now?
Indeed.
I think so.
Okay. In that case, I will say goodbye to the good people, the good listeners. This episode is going to be a bit shorter than other weeks in that we had to cut a bunch of stuff out in the middle. But thanks for tuning in, and you can head to unwindmedia.com/futurechat for past episodes and more. See you guys next week.
Toodaloo.
Ciao.
You guys have follow-up, or we're good to just...
I
have
my... You have your...
I forgot, and then I was reminded while you guys were both gone, and then and then I forgot again.
Wait, what happened?
I had my news.
Oh, see, I was upset that you were still alive.
Wait.
You're
No,
upset?
like the
Why?
podcast is live.
Oh,
Because usually you cut it off after we all say goodbye.
Because we have an
well-
after show.
yeah. If I leave it on for a bit, if there's going to be an after show.
Okay. So what's the news, Robert?
Well, the news is Julia and I bought a puppy yesterday. It was kind of mostly a surprise.
That's
Where's
awesome.
this puppy?
Is it still
Show
getting
me the
weaned?
puppy.
Well, I can't show you the puppy now because it's downstairs. But
It's
Pick
in
up
the
the puppy.
house.
Go
Yeah.
get the puppy.
I
Bring
wanna
it to the
see it.
camera.
I
Rob,
I-
you
I'm
can't
not-
not bring the
Rob.
puppy now.
You can't puppy tease me like that.
here's what I'm gonna do. I will have when the episode comes up, I will have a picture. But for you guys, I will go and show you a puppy if you want. But I'll bring my computer down and I'll show you.
I desperately want to
Yes.
see this puppy.
Okay. In that case, if you want to go to the show notes and see a puppy, if you like puppies, then you can go and see one. There'll be a link in the notes.
If you like puppies. Kind of Satanists do you think we have listening to the show, Rob?
That's fair. All right. In that case, I'll end the broadcast.